Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to Teaching Languages Online. My name's Dave. Please, if you want to learn more about the online language teaching world and what's going on, subscribe below. I'm going to be doing videos as often as possible to talk about the business and what's happening. It's another warm day here, so I have the air conditioner on. You might hear that in the background, but hopefully it'll be okay. Hopefully the video is a little clearer today because I think my video settings are a little bit better today. Sorry about that last video. So I want to really delve into the topic of online language teaching in general. What is the prospectus for it for the rest of this year, for 2022, and so on. So on italki and the message boards, I hear a lot of teachers saying, oh, well, this is because in my last video about the death of italki, or is italki dying, which I recommend, I'll put it up in something up here above. I asked a question, is italki dying as a platform? And I said, definitely yes. But a lot of people have interpreted this as meaning the online English or the online language learning community is dying as well. That the business itself is dying because of the trends and what's going on and whatnot. And I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true at all. There are a lot of things happening right now. And if you only look at certain things through the lens of italki, then yes, you might have that point of view. You might see that outlook. But overall, I don't think that's the case. But there are some goods and there are some bads when we look at this. And I think we need to talk about those and kind of where I see, and again, this is just my position from my years of experience in doing this, kind of where this business is going and how to prepare yourself for the business. So we're going to do the good news and the bad news. So I could ask, which one do you want first? But we're going to go with the bad news first. Okay, so as I mentioned in my italki video just a little bit, that a lot of these schools in China have closed to foreign language teachers. So a lot of teachers, from what I understand about the law that has happened in China, I want to do a little bit more research before I do a video about that, is that a lot more teachers from China are going to be teaching English. And if you're an American teacher or a British teacher, whatever, you basically have to go to an international school where there's a possibility you teach another subject like history or something like that. And it becomes a little bit harder to be qualified for those positions. So obviously, that's a bad thing. One of the bad things is that all of a sudden, with these schools closing in China, there is a huge influx of teachers into the online teaching industry. A lot of these teachers that were in China are now on italki. That's their natural route. That's where they're going. So that is a bad thing. All of a sudden, there's more competition because there are more teachers out there who aren't teaching in a classroom anymore. They now have to go online because when they get back to their home country, the pay is not as good as it was in China. And honestly, the pay is not as good as it is in their home country. If I taught ESL here in the United States right now, I would be making less money in the classroom than I do online. So online is definitely a better option if you come from a native speaking country. In most cases, there are some exceptions, obviously. That being said, also the problem is that now with them clamping down on China and students not, or teachers not going there, they've also clamped down on online teaching. So a lot of Chinese students can no longer get their one-on-one lessons from somebody from another country, right? So this has been something that's been talked about on a lot of online message boards as well, about most of my students are from China. What should I do? Luckily for me, I currently have no students from China, a few from Hong Kong, and it's not a problem for me. Most of my students are Russian-based students. I used to teach in Russia. That's why. But in this situation, you're seeing the amount of students go down. So in any situation, that is a bad business model, right? You know, when the supply of teachers goes up and the demand for lessons because there are less students goes down, that's a recipe for disaster, right? And apparently italki is deciding they're going to take this ball and run with it, right? They've decided, okay, that's our business model. That's what we're going to do. Fair enough. They want to do that. That's okay. But I really believe those are the only negatives right now. Yes, this is going to be a little bit of growing pain time, and I think those who can survive through these next 6 months or this next year are going to come out stronger. But you have to look at the other side of it. Okay, so those were the bad parts. These schools are closing, more teachers on the market, less students asking for lessons. What's the upside? What is the positives here? The first positive is just online teaching, right? More and more people want to be able to learn their lessons online. They don't want to go in a classroom. They don't want to have a schedule that isn't conducive to their schedule, right? They want to be able to say, hey, I'm finished working. I finished working at 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m. I'm going to do an English lesson, right? It isn't, this is the schedule of the classroom, and you have to adhere to that schedule. Make your own schedule. You can take a day off. You can do whatever you want. So I think that just online learning in general is the trend of the future, right? So that's the first thing. Another trend of the future is one-on-one teaching, right? So a lot of people want to have a personal tutor. And overall, those prices are starting to go down. They can still be competitive. My prices are competitive, but they are starting to go down. And I think you're starting to kind of see a happy medium. Obviously, italki's charging a lot less, but if you go onto any video that you see about people who have learned a language on italki, almost all of them say that cheaper teachers are worse quality than the more expensive teachers, that you do pay for quality. So just keep that in mind when you actually are setting your prices, right? I've set my prices to where they are right now, which on my website is $35 an hour, because that's what the market demands for me. But anyway, a lot of people are going to want to do one-on-one lessons, right? This is going to be the trend. No one wants to go in a classroom. No one wants to deal with a classroom anymore, right? Which then brings it to the third point, is that I believe that competition is going to be less if you are innovative in the way that you do it. So what do I mean by that? So right now, and I put this, if you haven't gone to it yet, go to the link below about the article. I have it in the description about why I am quitting italki. And with that, I put in that article toward the end, what did I learn with 2.5 years in italki? And it was that I looked at italki as if you build it, they will come. I was always reliant on italki to bring me business. I didn't prepare for the future. My biggest regret, my biggest mistake was when I was doing quite well on italki, making nearly $5,000 a month on italki. Well, not just italki, a combination of everything, was that I was in a position to build my website, to build my company, to build what I had, but I didn't do it. And it's like I only did it after the fact, when it was a necessity. And I was a little bit behind there. And that's something that I learned. So if you're doing this, start off now building, so that in the future you don't have to worry about it. Anyway, the thing is I've noticed that you're going to have teachers on italki who are going to live and die by italki, like I said in the italki video. Or you're going to have these schools, like Berlitz and other schools that are these traditional brick and mortar schools where I just mentioned it, that you have to go to a classroom on their schedule and do what they tell you to do. And it's not personalized. So you might go in, don't know what the topic is today if you're a student, and you say, today we're going to talk about present perfect continuous. You're like, well, I already know that. So this is going to be a waste of an hour or two, because we're going to talk about something I already know about, right? But I notice a lot of them brick and mortar traditional schools are just they're not modernizing. I see a few, like Kaplan has some online teaching, but I don't know how seriously they're pushing it. Kaplan and Berlitz and others are moving online, but a lot of them are moving to a classroom online. They just can't break that mold. They're just like, we've done it this way for decades. We're going to continue doing it this way for decades, right? That's where they're at right now. That's what their mode is. That's what their business model is. So you really have to say, okay, you have this business model of italki and Verbling and Preply and all these. We have that business model, which it's going to get saturated because there are going to be too many teachers. Then you have this other business model of traditional brick and mortar schools like Berlitz and others, EF English, Wall Street English, things like that. And I'm going to make a video about those later on when I talk about what I think is happening in China and the impact of China on the online market. You have them that are just going to continue to do it the traditional way. They're going to continue to do it the traditional way. I have not seen that they're really pushing one-on-one online teaching. They're pushing online classroom teaching. That still requires you to dictate yourself to their schedule, right? And I just don't see that as a sustainable business model in this era. So overall, I believe the prospect of teaching English online is really good if you go your own way, if you adapt, if you don't rely on one or the other, because there's going to be a huge hole in the market. And the huge hole in the market is going to be teachers who are not connected with italki and not connected with a school. They're doing their own thing. And a lot of times you see a lot of teachers that just haven't been able to do this because they don't understand business, they don't understand basic supply and demand economic theory or something like that. So a lot of teachers default to one or the other. So if you are someone who has good business sense, you have a good sense of where things are going, the ability to build a good website, to build a good reputation, to do what you need to do to push your business forward, then this way is going to be the best way. And I really believe it might become a narrow window because the other people are in the other areas, but you can succeed in this. You absolutely can succeed in this. Today's my day off, but yesterday I had nine lessons yesterday. Tomorrow I have 8 lessons, right? So I haven't been hurt by what's happened at italki because I've built beyond that, right? So this is the trend. The trend isn't italki. The trend isn't teaching in a foreign country. The trend is online, but if you don't think about it the right way, if you're not thinking about it correctly, you're going to be left behind. You always have to be innovative. You always have to know your client. You need to know the supply and demand. You need to know where that hole is in the demand. So you need to know there are millions of students out there who want to learn English, right? But you need to know where that hole is, where the demand is, and build your business model around that. If you do that and you have some innovation and you're intuitive to what your students want, you're going to succeed. But if you just say, I'm a teacher, I'm going to one of these things, you're going to live that way and you're going to die that way. And everyone else who's going to kind of take this other approach of doing their own thing online, they're going to be to the races. They're going to be gone. They're going to be left behind. So I really think the prospectus of teaching in 2021, even with all these things that are happening with italki and China and everything, I think it actually looks really good if you're one who wants to innovate. All right, so thank you very much. Thank you for coming on here and listening to me talk about the online teaching world. I'm going to be making more videos, hopefully weekly or every few days, to just talk about what's happening in this occupation, because I just don't feel that there's a lot of information about just the news of the occupation. You see a lot of videos about how to start this, how to start that, but no one ever really talks about how changes within the industry are impacting you. All right, so we're going to go ahead and end today. Thank you very much. Please press the subscribe button down below. I'd love to hear your ideas. Thank you for the people who have already made comments in the italki video about is italki dead. Any comments you put down here, would love to hear them. If you have a success story about teaching English online and you've been doing quite well, or teaching any language online. I'm an English teacher, so I always say teaching English online, but if you teach Spanish or Italian or Mandarin or whatever, put your information down. Tell us how about your success story. Okay. So thank you very much. I hope you join me again. Again, subscribe down below and have a wonderful day. Thank you very much.